You ever just stand there, staring at a wall of PC parts and feel that sense of paralysis? Wondering if you're about to make a mistake that's going to cost you hundreds of dollars? Yeah, we've all been there. Today, we're going to cut right through all that noise. We're going to build a simple, powerful blueprint that will guide you to the perfect upgrade every single time.
So let's start with the big one, right? The component that really makes or breaks your entire gaming experience, the graphics card. I mean, the market is just a confusing mess of numbers and marketing speak. But the key to making a really smart choice is to understand this one simple conflict that's defining the whole industry right now. And this is it. This is the central conflict in the GPU market, and honestly, it perfectly captures the decision every single builder has to make. It's not just about what's the fastest anymore, it's about what's the smartest. And right now, that battle is all about value versus raw, top-end performance. Okay, let's look at two absolute heavyweights in that sweet spot for 1440p gaming. AMD's RX 9700 XT and NVIDIA's RTX 5070 Ti. Now, if you look at them on paper, they look almost identical. Both have 16 gigs of VRAM, which is great. Both have fantastic upscaling tech. And in standard ray tracing, AMD has really closed the gap. Sure, NVIDIA still has an edge in path tracing. That's the super intensive next level stuff. But for most of us, the day-to-day experience is going to feel very, very similar. The real difference? Well, it comes down to one crucial number.
$150. That's it. That's the typical price gap you'll find between these two cards. And think about it. With SSD and RAM prices creeping up, builders are trying to stretch every single dollar. $150 saved on your GPU? That's huge. That can be a whole new SSD right there. And this price difference, it's fueling a major shift in how gamers are thinking.
This quote just nails what's happening. A lot of you will probably remember when AMD's Ryzen 3000 CPUs came out and suddenly became a real, powerful alternative for people who were just fed up with Intel. Well, we're seeing that exact same feeling bubble up with NVIDIA. When a genuinely strong, viable alternative exists for a much better price, people start to vote with their wallets. It's that simple.
So what's the bottom line here? The RX 9700 XT is a bestseller for a reason. Most gamers are looking at this and realizing that paying $150 premium for a performance boost you'll only really see in a handful of niche cases, it just doesn't make sense anymore. A new golden rule is starting to emerge. Pay for the performance you actually use, not the performance you might use someday.
Okay, so we've seen how this whole value versus performance battle plays out with GPUs. But how can you apply this way of thinking to your own unique situation? Let's build a simple, universal framework that you can use for any component, not just your graphics card. Really, it all boils down to these three simple things. First, what are you starting with? Your current GPU sets the entire baseline. Second, what's your budget? Obvious, right? This defines your playground of options. And third, and this is one people forget, what's your CPU? A brand new powerful GPU is just going to be held back, bottlenecked by an old processor. You absolutely have to consider all three together. And this right here perfectly illustrates a concept called diminishing returns. It's basically the idea that the more you invest, the smaller the gains become. Just look at the 3060 Ti. A $500 upgrade can nearly double your performance. That's massive. But if you're already starting with a more powerful card, like the 6800 XT, that same $500 only gets you about a 25% boost. See what I mean? The less you have, the more you stand to gain. So what's the magic number? What should you be aiming for? Well, for an upgrade to feel genuinely transformative, I'm not talking a minor bump, but a whole new level of performance you can really feel, you should be looking for at least a 40 to 50% increase in your average FPS. If the math doesn't get you there, honestly, it might be smarter to just wait a little longer. All right, now let's talk about the big anxiety, the one that lurks behind every single purchase. Future-proofing. You're about to spend hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars. The absolute last thing you want is for that shiny new hardware to feel obsolete in a year or two. This is the question on everybody's mind, isn't it? We saw it happen with the last generation of consoles, like the PlayStation 5. They came out, and suddenly VRM requirements in PC games started to climb. Is it going to happen all over again the second the next Xbox and PlayStation are announced? The good news is you really don't need to worry about your new GPU becoming obsolete overnight. It just doesn't work that way. As you can see from this timeline, there's a pretty big delay between a new console launch and its real impact on PC gaming. After the PS5 launched in 2020, it took about 2 full years for VRAM demands to really spike on PC. So if the next consoles show up around 2028, well, you do the math. Your new hardware is going to be safe for years to come. So what does all this mean for VRAM right now, today? Well, 8GB cards are already on their way out if you want to play at high settings at 1440p. They're just struggling. 12GB is quickly, and I mean quickly, becoming the new baseline. And thankfully, there's some good news on the horizon. These upcoming 3GB GDDR7 memory modules will make it a lot easier for manufacturers to offer more VRAM on their budget-friendly cards in the next generation. So that's something to look forward to. All right, you've got the framework, you've got a sense of the future. Now, let's talk about avoiding some common pitfalls, because there are some real hardware issues to be aware of, and honestly, some long-standing myths that just need to be put to rest for good. Okay, first, let's just quickly define BIOS. It's basically the little bit of software on your motherboard that wakes up all your components when you hit the power button. Keeping it updated is generally a good idea, but sometimes a BIOS update can cause way more problems than it solves. And a perfect example of a BIOS-related headache is this issue some ASRock motherboards had with AMD's super powerful X3D CPUs. Now, to be fair, ASRock says they've fixed the problem with a recent BIOS update. But look, when you're spending top dollar on a high-end CPU, you want to be 100% sure everything is going to work perfectly right out of the box. So just for peace of mind, it might be wise to choose a different motherboard brand for a high-end X3D build. But for budget or mid-range builds, ASRock boards are a fantastic value, and you're very unlikely to run into any issues at all. And now for a myth. For decades, new builders have been absolutely terrified of static electricity. You know the picture, one tiny little zap instantly frying your expensive new motherboard. But is the danger really that high? The reality is, the risk has been massively overblown. Modern components are just way more resilient than we used to give them credit for. Just use some common sense, you know? Handle parts by their edges. Don't build your PC in socks on the big shag carpet. And maybe, just maybe, don't let your cat take a nap on the open case. You almost certainly do not need to go out and buy a special anti-static wristband. So let's bring this all together. Building or upgrading a PC can seem really daunting from the outside, but it doesn't have to be. Once you strip away all the marketing noise and the myths, it's an incredibly rewarding process that puts you completely in control. See, we didn't just talk about what to avoid. We talked about how to think. This whole thing is about more than just picking parts off a list. It's about understanding the why behind your choices. That's the stuff that transforms a simple box of components into a machine that is uniquely, totally yours. So now you have the blueprint. You know how to weigh value against performance, you know how to plan for the future, and you know how to sidestep all those common myths and traps. The only question left is, what are you going to build?
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to the latest update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end, and see you in the next video.